another busy Friday. I'm Jay Kempton, President and CEO here at the Kempton Group. As most of y'all probably know me already. I'm here with Melissa Nance, Chief Brand Officer, and also Troy Stillwagon, our Chief Information Officer. And we're going to spend a little bit of time this afternoon. I don't think this is going to take the full hour and a half. So if we get back, give back some of your day, I'm sure you won't mind a bit. We're going to be talking a little bit about a new customer dedicated support structure that we've been working on really all year, kind of behind the scenes, even through COVID-19. As you can see, we all have our masks near at hand. Hope you all are making it, adjusting to the new normal. We certainly are. And just to give a little bit of a background or a level set, as most companies do, you know, it's one of those deals, you either evolve or die. And Kempton certainly wants to evolve and become more customer centric. We've experienced we've been really blessed with some fair growth over the last few years, and we felt that, you know, the way that we had always done things was just not working. We had changed in scale to a certain degree, and felt like it was time to evolve the way that we interact with our customers, the way that they interact with us, to improve access and convenience. As you all know, in your employers and with your employee base, you know, we're getting new, young, fresh faces that expect to be able to interact with their health plan in a different way than they have traditionally, and we certainly wanted to reflect that. So that's also part of what we're going to discuss. We've also really made some structural changes that we feel will provide a real emphasis on client satisfaction and focusing much more on the client in more of a concentrated way. So Troy will talk a little bit more about that. So with those things being said, I'm going to introduce my friend and our Chief Information Officer here at Kempton. Troy, you've been here for what?
A year and 4 months.
Year, 4 months, yep. So we've worked real close with Troy as he's kind of taken over not only our technology side of the business, but also our operations side of the business, whether it goes to claim service or claims processing or customer service, et cetera. A little bit about Troy's background. Troy is 34. I'm reading here, as y'all probably imagine. I don't want to do any disjustice to Troy. Troy's had 34 years experience in the planning, management, and control of information technology and business processes, focusing on healthcare for the past 30 years. Troy served the last 14 years before coming to Kempton as Vice President of Information Systems for Scott & White Health Plan. And previous to that, he worked for another 14 years at Baylor Scott & White Healthcare, serving as the Information Security Officer and Director of areas such as Information Security, Telecommunications, Problem and Change Management, and PC Support. Troy's strength really is in helping business executives to optimize control technology in order to improve operating efficiency and enhance business value. Troy's key skills include IT governance and control, project management, systems selection and implementation, business and IT partnering, and IT audit, control, and security. Troy is a native Texan. Actually, I'm across the table here from two native Texans. That's all right. We love Texas. He's a native Texan, grew up in Houston, and currently resides in Edmond. Troy's been married for 32 years to his wife, Jamie. They have 3 children, Ryan, Skylar, and Jessica, and 2 grandchildren, Kason and Katie. Troy holds a BBA in Management of Information Systems from Tarleton State University. He's actively involved in his church, serving as a deacon for 18 years and working in areas such as benevolence, youth teaching, and adult education. Some of his hobbies, which I don't know that you got to do a whole lot of them recently, but golf, softball, tennis, and basketball. Troy, that's quite a description. Do you write that?
I did write that.
And from the resident Texans in the room, we say Tarleton State.
Tarleton.
Yes.
Didn't practice that. So with that, I'm going to turn over the next couple of slides, the next few slides to Troy. So you ready to take it away?
I am. Thank you, Jay.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. And I appreciate Jay for the introduction, for the great introduction that apparently I wrote. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day and spending it with us. As Jay mentioned, I've been in healthcare business for more than 30 years, with most of that time spent at one of the largest integrated health systems in the state of Texas. So I've learned a thing or two, kind of quoting a commercial. I've learned a thing or two about healthcare and health insurance as I grew up in the industry and have experienced much of what's wrong within healthcare today. I'm especially excited to be with the Kempton Group administrators and I'm excited to be able to introduce some organizational and technology advances that we have implemented or will be implementing over the next few weeks. All of the changes that we're making now and in the future are in support of our mission, which is to empower and educate self-funded employers like yourselves about how they can take control of their plan, offer better benefits to their employers, to their employees, and effectively manage their costs. So over the next 30 minutes or so, Jane, Melissa, and I will be talking about new team members, fewer customers per account manager, KPP-free and direct contract expansion, new technologies, new customer dedicated support structure, and technology enhancements. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Melissa.
Thank you. We've had a couple of other changes in account management, and I guess change is going to be probably the word of the hour here. It's been the word of our year, but I want to sort of recap a few of the things that we have changed, the things that you all have seen changed. Not the least of which is the growth of our internal team. So in the last several months, and I keep kind of losing track of time because of COVID. So it hasn't been several months now, it's been almost a year. But over the last year or so, we have grown the account management team. And so our resident account managers that most everybody was familiar with probably this same time last year are Laura and Lori. And of course, Shannon, our Vice President of Account Management. And so you all probably, we're working with those individuals, but we've grown that team. So obviously our purpose in growing that team was to reduce the number of customers that each of those account managers serviced on a regular basis so that they could improve and enhance the service delivery. So we've added some folks. I know that you all have met them, but we've added Stephanie, Linda, Matt, and then you all also know, because she's actually been with our organization for about 15 years, but Megan Friedman, and so we added Megan to an account management role. So in some future slides, I'm not intending to glaze over that at all, but in some future slides, we're going to show you sort of the hierarchy and what that looks like, and you'll see photos and introduce all of where those people fit and who they are and all of that. But that has been an expansion. The other expansion of our team members have been that we've also put some resources into bringing on some additional clinical folks. And so we've got 3 clinical staff, 2 LPNs and 1 BSN that have a primary focus on everything from, working with the members to do redirections to our direct contracted providers through the KPP free program, to providing just some clinical support and oversight to our customer service Kempton Care advocates in their day-to-day job, as well as managing the relationships with our Kempton Premier Provider or KPP free program providers. And so I think the addition of the folks that have clinical backgrounds has been an enhancement to our team. We've certainly appreciated their support that they've provided. So that's the enhancements to our team members. We've also been, Jay mentioned growth at the beginning of the presentation. We've also grown the number of providers that we're working with. And so we are currently, I think in 2020, we've expanded our provider relationships by more than 30 engagements. And so those have come in a variety of different ways. Whether that be from a direct contract, which in our vernacular here around Kempton, what a direct contract is just a relationship, with the provider. Most often it is based on a reference-based price. So change is the first word of the hour. The other word of 2020 and 2021 is going to be RVP and reference-based pricing. But most of those contracts are based on reference-based pricing, and the reference that's used for those contracts is some derivative of Medicare. So we typically are going to reference whatever the provider would normally be reimbursed from a Medicare participant, and then increase that reimbursement by some additional percentage. So we've increased that program with direct contracts probably by 13, 14 or so additional providers. And those provide a lot of value to our employers and to their employees because they offer sort of an opportunity for cost containment without a potential for any balance billing, but it's on a reasonable, upfront, knowable number. So that's been a big improvement. And then also we've expanded the Kempton Premier Provider Program by about the same number of KPP free providers. And so as you all know, our KPP free program is, it consists of providers who are offering bundled cash pricing for a variety of different procedures, most often in a category of orthopedic or gynecology or imaging, things like that. And for the exchange of working with those providers, the customers and the employees actually receive enhanced benefits. So that's been a real positive for us in 2020 as well. And we're dedicating actual full-time employee staff time to going out and developing those relationships. And so we anticipate continued growth there. The thing that I would probably leave you with, and then I'll turn it back over to Troy, is that all of this growth has all of this growth has been intentional. So it is a lot of change. We know that, we've had to communicate to you all in a couple of different times that your account manager might have changed or, some other different changes. And so we just want you to know that this growth is intentional. It's purposeful. We are laser focused on the service delivery that we're providing throughout our organization to all of our clients. In fact, my entire role is specifically to redefine what that service looks like, and that's important to me. So sometimes change is hard, but it is inevitable, as they say, but for us, it's also been purposeful. So I'm gonna turn it back over to Troy, and he's gonna talk a little bit more about some of what that actual change looks like within our organization and some of the things that you all might see, as well as some of the technology enhancements that go along with that change.
And before you start, Troy, I was wanting to just dovetail into something that Melissa had just mentioned. I had mentioned that, we've been blessed with some growth. We certainly know that can be certainly fleeting if you don't take good care of the customer. And I know when vendors that we do business with tell us about how much they're growing, I really kind of strap in and expect, well, then that explains why you don't return my phone calls. That explains why my service has gone down. So sometimes it's a dual-edged sword. And so a lot of the changes that Troy's going to talk about and Melissa's going to talk about are trying to figure out how do we, as we grow and are able to serve more employers, how do we still feel like a small family-owned TPA to our existing customers? And I think we've got an amazing strategy that will allow that to happen. It's scalable, yet responsive to the customer, where no matter how large we get, knock on wood, we're still going to feel like the same Kempton or even better, before that growth ever happened. So with that, just wanted to set the stage for that, Troy.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, I tell you what, I get excited just listening to Melissa and Jay talk about the change and the growth that we've experienced and
More professional talkers.
everything we did. That's right.
Yeah, we need.
And as everybody will learn, I'm not a professional. But thank you so much. So when I first joined the Kempton leadership team, we initially asked ourselves a question: how do we want to continue to support our mission? The new generation of employees and their expectations around the use of technology and enhanced customer service capabilities have really kind of changed the ballgame for us, and for many of us, for many of you. The new generation, or after much discussion about this, we first determined that to continue to meet our customers' expectations and our mission, we needed to flip the organizational chart, which represents a significant organizational change for the Kempton Group, and a significant cultural change for us. And we're having to work through those things now. The new organizational model features an inverted pyramid, really, with our customers at the top, with you all at the top of that structure, and the executives at the very bottom of that structure. The purpose of the inverted leadership pyramid is to maximize communication between the employees of our organization and to create a flexible, more responsive team to meeting your needs. But not only did we flip the org chart, we tore down the departmental walls or silos that many of us are very aware of and know about within our businesses. And we created a new pod structure, which places the focus of each pod on you, our customers. Each pod team is able to provide support and focus for a smaller subset of our customers, and your satisfaction is the responsibility of those pod teams.
Yeah. And, as kind of a real life example, in previous years, we brought a lot of tools to the table for our Kempton Care advocates to be able to jump from, they might be getting a call from one employer that maybe is a manufacturer, and then the very next call, they're talking to, a hospital client that's on, that's in Texas and has completely different benefit plan. And then the next call, they may be talking to a bolt-on client, for instance. And so we brought a lot of tools to help that care advocate be able to switch hats. But, to use a line that Melissa uses, it was one of those deals where, we were, what's the saying? Master of nothing and
A jack of all trades and a master of none.
yeah, so that was really kind of the model, and it worked fine when you had 20 accounts. Now when we're quite a bit larger than that kind of a structure, it just doesn't work, because it's very, very difficult for your employees when they call in. They might not ever talk to the same person twice, or if they do talk to the same person, they may have to completely repeat the story because the person's taken 20 calls from 20 other clients in the meantime. And so the pod structure, as Troy mentioned, it is a customer focused kind of a mini, each pod, as we call it, is really kind of a mini Kempton. It has all of the component pieces, but for a small subset of the client base. And so the reps, the claims processors, they may be working with 8 accounts, instead of 80 accounts. And so with that, we expect that there's going to be a much increased familiarity with the benefit plan design. There's going to be a much greater opportunity for continuity. If you've got an employee that is maybe walking through a really tough medical condition and they're having to call, the Kempton Group multiple times, the time that is taken to get, our care advocate back up to speed should be either greatly reduced or completely eliminated. So those are the things that really are meaningful to us.
Yep. I think Jay just basically talked about all the rest of my slides.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
And we lovingly refer to this arrangement within our organization as a pod. So you might hear us say that, you might hear your account manager or Shannon or Matt either refer to it that way. But when you hear pod, you can think of that as synonymous with, a dedicated team that's there to support your customer experience. And that covers all the functional areas within Kempton.
So with that in mind, let's dig a little deeper into the new pod structure. It would have been easy for us to continue with isolated departments, kind of specializing in their different areas, as Jay said. But the problem with this approach is that it's incredibly inefficient for servicing our customers. And the reality is that small teams or pods, actually, we believe just will work better. We've divided our departments into 3 pod teams. With members from account management, admin, Kempton Care Advocates, research and resolution, billing and enrollment, plan build, and claims. Our pod team members work collaboratively amongst themselves and independently of other pods, and each pod's members have different skill sets and responsibilities that they bring to the table. So we're very excited about this. So let me talk through just some of these responsibilities and areas and kind of how they work together. So what is a Kempton Care Advocate? So hopefully when you've called and you've gotten one of our call center people, we like to refer to them as our Kempton Care Advocates. And that's because we really believe and we really want them to advocate on your part and your employees and for your employees and our members. And we really want them to focus on that as an advocate of you and the employer group and the employees. They are equipped now. So in the past, they basically were a full group of call center. And in order to basically take a call and facilitate that call, if they needed help in answering the call, they used to basically have to either put the member on hold and then try to find somebody from another department to help them, or worse yet, they'd have to get off that call and then basically have to call the member back after getting the answer, which many times took longer than we would like. Yes. To get the answer to you. So now as a pod team, the way we've set this up, they have people like research and resolution specialists on their team. Research and resolution specialists are there to help them on the fly or even jump on the call if they need to, but to help them through the tools that we've equipped them with to be able to answer the questions much quicker, to be able to do that research for them, or their expertise is in our claims area, especially, and with our providers. And so many times they're able to really kind of hone in on either those claims problems or a provider that's trying to get in touch with us or work with us, either on behalf of a member with regards to eligibility or claims. And they're able to really help the KCA with that and support the KCA with more closely. We also have billing and enrollment specialists, and your billing and enrollment people, hopefully you know your billing and enrollment people already, and we'll introduce them a little bit later for each pod, but the billing and enrollment specialists are there to do what it says. They're there to make sure they get out the appropriate bills to you and the vendors that we work with on your behalf. And they're also there to make sure that that they're enrolling, helping you to enroll your employees quickly and effectively, and getting them into our system so that we can start paying claims on their behalf. And then we also have the plan builder side of it. So those are the individuals who actually, after the plans are decided upon, they build the plans within our back-end claims system so that we can pay the claims appropriately. But they know our benefits inside and out because they're the ones that configure those benefits in our system, and they know how our system works, and they're able to answer questions quickly for the Kempton Care advocates around any type of benefit related questions, or possibly why a claim didn't work correctly within our system, or, or how it should have worked or how it should work. And then we have the claims processors. The claims processors are those, kind of head down back end people that are doing what it says. They're actually processing and making sure the claims, if they're not automated and they have to touch a claim, they're the ones that go in and touch those claims and make sure they're processed appropriately. So you get, as you can see here, it really gives that account manager, which I didn't mention, and I should have, it gives that account manager and that Kempton Care advocate this team of dedicated people, and it gives you as the customer really a team of dedicated people, so that on behalf of you, the account manager and the Kempton Care advocate can basically quickly and easily talk to anybody on their pod team and get these answers more quickly than they have in the past.
The interesting thing, about this new structure is, each one of those bullets, those roles that Troy went through, those are not new roles. Those components, if you will, they've existed here at Kempton for a long time. But, if you were a claims processor, you paid claims from all the accounts. It just depended on a workload as to whose claims you got. Each one of these component pieces, though, as Troy mentioned, are within a pod, and then they are assigned specific clients that are that happen to be the clients that are related to the account manager in each pod. So if you think about it, the account manager is really the star, if you will, that the rest of the pod orbits around, and thereby services the clients that are attached to that account manager. So I know I've heard from a lot of you through the years that that this was a structure that made a lot of sense to you, and you'd like to see it. Well, we have finally gotten to a point where, from a scale perspective, that we have enough individuals in each one of those component areas to where moving to a pod structure is easy to do.
So this is definitely one of those ways that we're keeping our organization, even as we grow, we're keeping it small for our customers, and that's why it's important to us to move to this pod structure.
The thing I like about this too is that it provides an opportunity for cross training across functional roles within our organization. So one of the things that you all know that Kempton has sort of prided itself with over the years is the amount of longevity and tenure and loyalty that we have with the staff that are here. And so what I mean by that is a lot of the employees at Kempton have been here for a long time, but in the roles that they were in for a long time. And so this is actually providing an opportunity for us to not only do the cross training, which is beneficial for everybody, and just provides more support, but it also puts fresh eyes on things too. And you all will see that and continue to be the benefactors of having those fresh eyes on that. But I think that's an important part of this dynamic is that, instead of only having the perspective or the view of one particular department, you've got people that are bringing skill sets, knowledge, awareness, perspectives from various areas of multiple departments together to form the solution to bring to you all.
And then, at the bottom of this org chart, this flipped org chart, are the areas that do not have direct client interaction with. They're more of a generalized support, and that includes Melissa and Troy and I. And Gary as well. Gary's on vacation, our CFO, or he'd be here in this meeting as well. So I don't think that we put Gary under the rug or anything. But finance, IT business partner, executive leadership, provider relations, and then operational support. Those are all support roles that really are there to serve each and every pod in their area of expertise.
Thank you. So let's talk about the pod and talk about some of the, what we think the pod, some more about what we think the pod is going to bring to you. We believe that this pod structure is going to facilitate a greater sense of ownership and accountability.
Yeah.
And we really, truly, that is one of the reasons why we wanted to move to this new structure. It makes company, we believe it's going to make our company functions more transparent, and it will encourage these team members that we've talked about to work towards the same goals. And we believe it encourages those team members not only to work towards the same goals, but the goals that we've set before them, they are responsible for your satisfaction. And basically, we want to make sure that by pulling them together, that they work together on your behalf in meeting your needs. And we believe that they're able to do that. The team is definitely, we've empowered them to solve issues quickly and creatively. So we've, given them the ability to work together as a team, and by setting those goals up for them with you in mind, basically they're able to figure out together what is the best way we need to work as a team in order to facilitate the proper customer service that you expect in us. And to me, that's something that is much easier to do in these pod structures than it was to do, especially as we've grown. Sure. With all of the departments that we've had.
One of the real interesting things about this story and this structural change has been early on in our planning sessions that occurred. We're probably TPA is a little bit different than most employers, as opposed to doing strategic planning, late in the year for the next year. We end up having to do our strategic planning early in the year for that year because renewal season is very resource intensive. But in January, when we were talking about this, one of the things that probably didn't bother Melissa or Troy, but it did bother me, I kept trying to get my mind wrapped around how this would work because, okay, we're going to have this small team, responsive, creative specialists, and it's going to be essentially these very flatly organized pods. I was thinking, okay, for them to be able to collaborate really freely, we're going to have to place them physically in close proximity. We're going to have the account manager sitting next to the claims processor sitting in. I was thinking about our office, and I don't know how we're going to accomplish that unless we took a wrecking ball to the place and completely rebuilt the space. And then COVID happened.
Yep.
And, we had this plan to roll this out, but when COVID happened, we was like, okay, is the train completely derailed, and are we going to have to kick this can down another year? And then we quickly figured out with 90+% of us working from home, really geographics became irrelevant. It was kind of one of those things. As long as you're here, it doesn't matter where here is. And so we've been able to build these pods in a virtualized environment through some technology that Troy's going to talk about. But I just don't know that technology would have really clicked with our organization if they had been in the same physical space. It just would have seemed odd. Working from home and everybody's homebound location, it seems completely logical.
I agree. A couple more comments I want to make about this, because these might be questions that you have out there and trying to anticipate some of your questions. I want everybody to know that because of the technology, the new technology, which Jay mentioned, which I'll talk about in a little bit, our teams or our pods have been right-sized for the clients and the call volume. So we've been able to, with our new technology that we've had in place now since the beginning of the year, since late last year, we have been able to better report, look at things, look at activities and call volumes and things like that from each one of our customers. And so we've been able to, one of the things that we did before we rolled this out was to determine, how many calls, if we give a pod 15 customers, how many calls are they going to be getting from that? So we were able to construct this in such a way that pretty much evened it out across the pods.
And trying to group customers together that kind of made sense, that were similar.
Yes.
We do have we're lucky enough to serve a few niches, whether it be healthcare or electrical co-ops or community banks or manufacturing. And so we also tried to take into consideration grouping plans that had a similar culture and sometimes even similar plan designs in order to also right size the pods.
Yes, and the new technology that I mentioned, it allows us also to continue to monitor and just to make sure that the way we've structured the pods are continuing to work. And as we add new groups to some of these pods, that we'll know when a pod starts to get saturated or oversaturated with calls. Some other questions that might come up that you might have is what happens if somebody on the pod either falls ill or just goes on vacation? How do we facilitate that? So we do have backup support structures in place that even when a member of the team is not able to work for that day or a week while they're out for whatever reason, we're able to maneuver backups that we have to that pod to facilitate while that individual is out of the office. Another question you might have is, how are we holding the pods accountable? So one thing I would say is that because accountability is one of the big things that we've placed on this pod. But with these systems, even Jay, Melissa, and I, as executives, we're able to review and look at our new call center system, and we're basically able to see at a moment's notice and report at a moment's notice, what is going on. We're able to listen to calls. We're able to listen to calls live so that we can make sure that they're being handled appropriately. We're able to listen to calls afterwards so that we can start holding our call center advocates and our Kempton Care advocates, and the other pod members accountable to making sure that they're pitching in and helping when they need to, and that all of that is happening as it should. And we also realize that in holding the pods accountable, that what works for one client might not work for the other client. So we're asking the pods to, since they have less clients that they have to deal with, get focused on the customers that they are representing and really get to know you as a customer. And we feel like that that will happen over time. One is they'll be able to review your plan documents and understand your plan a lot better than they would trying to deal with 50 clients versus dealing with 15.
Where they understand it, in their head and in their heart, and not have to 100% rely on the lookup tools.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because they're not having to bounce around just to all over the entire organization as far as the different client calls that they'll be servicing.
Yeah.
In the pods, it's a much smaller subset.
And it's really been kind of exciting to, as I'll show in a minute, we've actually kind of did a soft launch over the last month of the pods. And it's already been kind of exciting to watch some of them really grow close together. They're meeting after hours to discuss how to better serve you as our customers. They're meeting together sometimes on I know one pod is actually not this Saturday, but next Saturday meeting to eat brunch together and just hang out with each other on a Saturday to get to know each other better. So it's been kind of exciting to see those types of things happen.
I skipped one of your slides.
You did,
I did. Now you're completely thrown off.
Now I'm good. Okay, so let me just quickly talk about our timeline. Basically in April of 2020, when we say internal rollout, we really presented the whole inverted organizational chart and the new pod structures and what we were planning on doing over the next few months to roll them out to the employees. And that happened in April of this year. After we announced it during the summer, our internal IT team basically spent time setting up and structuring our new call center system to be able to basically support the pod structure. And as you can imagine, it's completely different than the way we had it set up before. So they basically had to basically rebuild our call center system. In August, as I mentioned, we did a soft launch, and we knew, just as anything new, that this is a whole new approach, a whole new cultural change. So we knew, and we wanted to do a soft launch before announcing all this to be able to work out some of the kinks technology-wise, to work out some of the kinks just personnel, from a personnel perspective, and to kind of get everybody ready for go live. So now, today, that we're announcing to you, we are fully in what we call a production mode. This has gone live, and we are continuing to work out a few kinks along the way, and I'm sure that will continue to be over the next few months. But we're going to continue to smooth this out, and really we're excited about this. I did want to talk a little bit on this slide, kind of going back to the IT support and setup. I do think this is a great time to just tell you about some internal technology enhancements that we've had. I mentioned we're utilizing a new call center system. That call center system is bringing some, not only the ability to monitor calls, to hold people accountable from a system standpoint, bringing better data and reporting and monitoring and all that to us, but it's also allowing us to start rolling out new functions that are in support of you as a customer and new omni-channels to you. And omni-channels, if you don't know what those are basically right now, you normally contact us either through phone, email, or our web portal. With these enhancements, some of the things that will be coming are the ability to chat, the ability to text with us. But one of the things that will be rolling out in the next few weeks is called, that we're very excited about, is called the Help Desk Center. And I'll be kind of showing a little bit more about that Help Desk Center, but that's through our current portal system. And you'll be allowed to not only just submit tickets through the portal system, but you'll also be able to monitor your tickets. You'll be able to interact and follow that ticket, interact with the Kempton Care advocate on that ticket, ask questions through that system, and then have responses through that system, but also be able to monitor an open ticket and the updates. When updates are there, you'll get notified that there's an update. So we're very excited about that technology for both internally and both externally for you as our customers. We've also added a couple other tools internally that are helping us. One that's been huge, and I'm with Jay, I don't know if it would have been this big unless we would have had to go home and work from home from COVID, but is what a system called Slack. It's just a IM system. It allows us to basically on the fly talk to somebody very quickly. And we've set up these pod groups on there, and we've set up our support groups. And basically anybody can talk to anybody else at a moment's notice. You can just send a quick Slack message and get a quick response. And so even as we're sitting and working during meetings, sometimes we'll get a Slack message, and it's so easy to use. It really allows us to communicate throughout the day, and it especially allows these pod member teams to not only communicate with each other, but also to communicate with the support teams that are there for them.
Being able to watch the interactions within the pod members in service of the clients has been very interesting. Instant messaging obviously is nothing new, but being able to group our customer pods into an instant messaging channel or group it's really for that pod's use, and be able to watch them collaborate to solve tickets and to answer questions. And if they need assistance from one of the support staff, it's crazy as it may sound, we see quicker and faster collaboration in a virtual environment than we did in the physical environment.
Yep.
And I would have never guessed that. But, as y'all have gathered, Troy is, as a CIO, he looks at everything through a technology lens. And Melissa and I know enough of you out there that it's not always about the technology. And so one of the really, I think one of the things that you all will notice immediately, if you haven't already noticed, is if you do call in to the call center, you do not get any sort of an auto attendant or a tree. You talk to a real human. One of the technology challenges that we got is, well, do we have a different 1-800 number for each pod? And it was decided that would be pretty cumbersome and just not real efficient. It didn't feel very client focused. I mean, as odd as it sounds, it just started to feel a little press 1 for pod 6 and press 2 for pod 3. So we ended up putting a human call director really in front of all of the pod areas. And so when you talk to one of those individuals, they're going to ask you, what employer group are you with? And what is the nature of your question? And really kind of prepare the caller and the pod so they're matched together. And when the caller gets to a pod representative, that pod representative many times already knows what you're asking about because the call has kind of been triaged at the front end of the call through our I don't even know if that role has a title yet, but I think it's going to be huge.
It is huge. And right now we're calling it a call center operator, but it's actually becoming much more than that. So
well, wait till market gets a hold of that. We'll spruce that sucker up.
Exactly.
I want to touch more on the human side of that, because the thing I think it's important for you to know too at your organization level is that yeah, sure, we can appreciate the technology and some of the things that I said, and me personally that I said in the beginning of our discussions about launching the pods was fine. We can throw a lot of technology at some of these things, but we can't lose the human component. And so I do want to circle back a tiny bit to the account manager side, because as I mentioned earlier, we've hired additional account managers. So I think that's important. But the other things that were sort of intentional, many of you all know and appreciated that Shannon, the manager over the account management department, was actually account managing accounts. And so, hiring additional people has also allowed us to sort of recalibrate her accounts, and give her the opportunity to interact with all of you, but also to interact and have more direct oversight over the account managers. But then
And be
two,
able to support them better.
and yeah, and to be able to support, and two, we also hired Matt. And so Matt's role as an account executive, which Matt came on exactly at the,
Yes.
literally the day that we went on travel ban and shut down for Kempton. So we had, anticipated that there would have already been a lot of on-site visits and all of those things. And COVID, for us has a little bit derailed some of those plans as well it has for you all. But Matt's entire role is also on, the relationship management of each of our accounts as well. And so we want you to recognize that. We want you to see the fruits of that, and know that, you can't ever just deploy technology and completely leave the human side of that out.
I agree. And one thing I think I was remiss in doing when I was talking about the pods that I really should have talked about was, the account managers that serve on that pod, they are really responsible for the interaction with you as the customer and facilitating that interaction with the pod team. So in effect, as an account manager, they're not only helping to manage our customers, but they have a team of people now, operational people,
A dedicated team.
dedicated team that they're working with and really helping to really kind of manage that team and making sure that, your expectations are being met by that team.
Mm-hmm.
So that relationship with the pod team is very important part of the pod.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, I wanted to quickly go through and let you meet our team, your teams. You'll notice that by the account manager, which team you're assigned to. If it's your account manager, then that's your pod team.
Yep.
But I wanted to just introduce you to the pods so that you'll sort of can put a face with the name. You'll be regularly getting the same Kempton Care Advocate when you call. That's one of the nice things. They're going to know you and get to know your employees and get to know you better as they continue to get calls from the groups that they're supporting. So we're very excited about that. So let's go through this real quick. Sure. All right, well, this is, we call it KGA Pod 1. We actually have internal fund names for each pod. But
You have to ask your account manager
what their internal
to share that. We're not going to share them because some of them are a little silly, but it'll be up to the account manager to let you all in on the internal pod names.
Well, and I'm always sometimes a little baffled, probably just because I'm not as in tune to this as I should be, but they're mostly excited about the T-shirts that they're getting for each one of their pods. So
Yeah, I mean,
you never know.
It builds autonomy.
It does.
And pride
It
in the work and for the customers that they serve. So it's been fun to watch.
So the first pod, your account manager is Laura Jorgensen. The two Kempton Care Advocates that will be taking care of you are Kristen Martin and Ariel Trotter. From a billing and enrollment or billing and admin perspective, it is Crystal Jeffers, which many of you have probably already been working with. And then from research and resolution, we have George Baltic. And then from our plan building team, we have Leslie Dunn. Our Pod 2 team has two account managers, which are Lori Cron Newsom. I say that correctly?
Yeah.
And good. Stephanie Derby, which is one of our newer account managers we're very excited about. Your two Kempton Care Advocates are Eva Peterson and Susan Hasselbring. And I actually apologize because there's a third Kempton Care Advocate for this team, which is Tiana. And I will make sure that we update these slides before they're sent out, and so that we have her picture on there. And then we have Robin Gentry under billing and administration. We have Natanya Tom as research and resolution specialist. Some of you might have interacted with Natanya as a Kempton Care Advocate, but she did such a good job. We moved her over to the research and resolution team. And then also Leslie Dunn is working with this pod as well from a plan building perspective.
Yep.
And then our last KGA pod is Meg Freeman and Lindsay Housley. Linda, what did I say? Lindsay. Sorry. Linda Housley are the two account managers. Brianna Mitchell, she might refer to herself as Bree on the call. So, and Anna Haverstock are your Kempton Care Advocates. We have Crystal Jeffers under Billing Administration and Robin Gentry sort of helping this pod out together from Billing and Administration. Then we have John Dickinson, who is from Research and Resolution, and Christy Novak from our Plan Bill team.
And I might add to kind of toot Bree's horn, she's actually one of our LPNs.
Yes.
That is also does double duty as a Kempton Care Advocate. The other two nurses one of them is actually in redirection. She makes outbound redirections. I don't think we have a picture of Tracy, but Tracy Krieger is on the team, really kind of a dedicated outreach person that you as a patient or some of your employees may get a call from Tracy. She is an LPN as well and does redirections. And then Amanda Cole is in one of the support departments, provider relations, and she is also a nurse, and it's been great to have those ladies as a resource.
So the last couple of slides, I'm excited to be able to introduce a couple of new technologies that are specifically for you as the customer. And the new technologies I already talked about for internal have given us the capability to add these new technologies, and I'm really excited about it. One of those that we'll be rolling out in the next few weeks will be our help center. And the help center will either be on the member portal or our provider portal or the HR portal. And this new help center is really there to help connect the members.
I think you meant and, not or.
What did I say?
You said it'll be here or here or
Oh, it had to be and here. And here. You're right. Sorry. Yes, not or here. It'll be in all three portals.
Right.
That's right. Available. And this is just a picture of what it's going to look like. But some of the things that it will provide to either the member or the provider that's working with us on behalf of the member, or you as a HR representative or somebody that's trying to help your employees. It gives you the ability more to have a self-guided experience.
if you choose to.
If you choose to, you can still call us, you can still email us, and you can still get to us through other manners. But what we've enhanced in this is not only the ability for you to be able to open up a ticket and submit a ticket through this, but it also gives you the ability to follow your ticket. And when there's updates through the system, you can see those updates and see basically how that ticket is progressing. If we weren't able to answer a call when you first called, which is what we always strive for, and we had to go do some more research, or we had to, work with a provider, we had to, many times we
Make
have
some
to,
outbound calls.
yes, make some outbound calls. But bottom line is it gives you the ability and your employees the ability to basically follow those tickets and where they're at that point in time. It also gives you a bunch of information that we're providing to you. There's resources that we're providing to you that we're hoping, like KPP resources that talks about KPP, or if you're on an RVP plan, there's resources in there that we've made available for RVP. And so it allows that employee to go into this and to be educated and to search for basically what they're interested in looking for, what they're interested in talking about, and maybe being educated through this help center is what we're wanting to do and what we're wanting to offer. We're really excited that that will be available very soon, and we'll be sending out notices about how to get to it on the portal and how to utilize it, and more information about
your account manager will be well up to speed on it as well. If you'd like to get a demo, they can certainly walk a group leader through how to use the help center as well.
I'm taking this as a good sign because I'm monitoring here on my screen like I'm a participant, and I'm seeing some hearts come up as you're talking about this. So I think
Awesome.
that's a good
Well, I'm
sign.
excited to hear that. I'm very excited. As with all interactions through our portal, we always like to let you know that this is 100% secure and confidential. And it follows all the HIPAA protocols behind the scenes. It immediately opens tickets up within our call center to the correct pod. It's directed to the correct pod, and then that pod member will take that and treat that as an interaction, whether it was a phone interaction or an email interaction. They treat this just the same as one of the calls. So we're very excited about that. And so, you know, the nice thing about this too is that the member or the employees that are using this, or the providers, they can actually specify whether or not they want to be contacted by phone, or whether or not they want to be contacted, you know, electronically, or you know, if they want to be contacted through this help center, through the portal. So they can really specify what their contact preference is. And of course, like I said before, it allows users of the system to be able to view, reply, or even close their current, or even see all their historical requests that they've had. So we are very excited about this.
Yeah, this will be really cool.
And then last, but certainly not least, I think we've saved maybe even one of the best for last. You know, at the Kempton Group Administrator Company, one of the things that we provide to all of our customers is KPP free. And one of the things I wanted to finish up with and just sort of talk about is we're rolling out, and it's actually available today. We will be sending out more information on this shortly to you as our customers, to kind of explain, so that you have materials to be able to provide to your employees. And it explains basically how they can download the app on their phone, and basically how to utilize the app, and more detailed information. But I did want to talk a little bit about the relationship we have with a company called Coral. One of the nice things through KPP, which way predates me being here, but it's probably one of the things I'm most excited about.
Yep.
Serving as a leader here, most excited about is our KPP free program that everyone has access to. But during the time when this was first rolled out, probably 2011, 2012.
2012, yeah.
Yep, we basically started a strategic partnership with this group, with this technology vendor called Coral, because as you can imagine, those KPP claims and how we facilitate not only just the claim and how it's processed, but the referral to a specialist, how that referral happens,
scheduling, travel,
vouchers, all that. Basically, we needed, that didn't work through our normal back-end claims processing system. So Jay did a fantastic job of, working with Surgery Center of Oklahoma, and at the time, and this Coral Technology Group to start building out this application. And maybe it went in 2011, 2012, might have been 2000.
Yeah, no, well, the need certainly started in 2011. I think we maybe have told some of our clients this, but we were very passionate about this, and we rolled it out to all of the clients. We didn't have a single client that did not adopt it, and it's been a great thing. I will tell you though that it was a really out of the box. It's not just out of the box in the healthcare industry, but as far as inside of a TPA, it was a very unorthodox. In fact, there's a lot of TPAs and insurance carriers around the country that are really interested in getting into bundles, and some of them are. But one of the things that holds them back is working in bundles, logical bundles, as opposed to, say, a DRG type bundle, is that their legacy systems do not accommodate the idea of a unitized care episode with a single price tag on it. And so we did a lot of the KPP work. I mean, quite literally trying to keep track of referrals and when a patient was going to have a KPP visit, and did we send them a voucher, and did we arrange the hotel correctly, and that most of that was being done on yellow pads, legal pads, and Microsoft Tasks, Microsoft Calendar in Outlook, which was not a great way to run anything.
Exactly.
So yeah, there was a technology vendor here in Oklahoma City, that is really kind of a serial entrepreneur type of an organization that's done all sorts of crazy technology projects all over the world. And they were intrigued by what was going on at Surgery Center of Oklahoma and what was going on at the Kempton Group. And they offered to partner with us. This is probably 2014. To start building out. We used to refer to that. We used to call this thing a lot of different things, but essentially it was going to be the operating system for managing and operationalizing healthcare bundles. It's evolved to the point though where it's just known as Coral, which is to represent an ecosystem, which serves many needs and many roles. But most of the TPAs and medical providers across the country that are doing bundles, they are administering bundles and communicating between the patient, the TPA, and the medical provider that is offering the bundle services. They're communicating with each other through Coral. I kind of liken it to walkie-talkies. The TPA's got one of the walkie-talkies, the premier provider's got the other end, and it gives us an ability to kind of look into each other's scheduling and check eligibility. It allows the provider to submit an invoice. It allows us to pay the provider, etc. But and I'm sorry I'm stealing your thunder here, but
you're doing a great job.
This is near and dear to our hearts for sure. So we've been using that system now for several years, kind of have been a beta tester for our own product. But the Coral application is really the component that takes what we've been using now for years, serving your employees and your dependents, and it gives the patient now another walkie-talkie. So now we've got 3 walkie-talkies. We've got the provider, we've got the TPA, and now we have the patient, where the patient can now search for qualified procedures, can search for KPPs in their zip code or in a radius of their choosing. It allows them to request a procedure, which will then go to a Kempton Care Advocate, which will then start the process as opposed to having to call to start the process. You can start the process of having that procedure worked up from your iPhone, from your smartphone. Lastly, the last couple of things that it does is, we've always talked about the voucher and why the voucher is important to ensure that the Kempton Premier provider submits the claim properly. And for some of our bolt-on clients that are on the call, you all really know what the value of the voucher, and that is so they do not file that bundled claim with your incumbent or your main health plan's TPA. The voucher does a lot of things, and we've explained it as to the patients or to the participants that you use the voucher like a boarding pass to get on an airplane. It's your ticket to be able to get this free benefit, and it assures the medical provider that everything has kind of been pre-qualified and set up ahead of time. But as the sales and marketing folks do, and Melissa and I have compared notes, are like, there's not a whole lot of people out there that still use paper boarding passes. Most boarding passes are on your phone. And so that's exactly what the Coral app also does, is once that procedure has been coordinated through a Kempton Care Advocate and the member, as the last step, as you all know, is to issue a voucher. Now we'll be able to issue that voucher through a smartphone, an Android or an iPhone. And then the participant can take that e-voucher on their Coral app on their phone to the Premier provider on the date of their service, hold up the phone, and that provider will accept that e-voucher the same way they would accept a paper voucher. For the plan administrators out there, I think you will also find an extra level of comfort in that since it's an e-voucher, if somebody becomes ineligible for a medical procedure that maybe we've already issued a voucher on, but they become ineligible between the date that we give the voucher and the date of service, we really had concerns about, is the provider going to accept this voucher even though the voucher is kind of invalid? And if they don't call us, there wouldn't be a real way to safety check that. But with an e-voucher, we can also just with a click of a mouse cause that voucher to just evaporate off of the mobile device. So it gives another layer of control there. And then also any upcoming procedures with the Kempton Premier provider will actually, they'll be able to view through the Coral app, basically their upcoming appointments in kind of a calendar functionality on their mobile device. This is a free application to our clients. We think it is very important to have. It's going to allow the clients hopefully to access KPP more readily, hopefully reduce more missed opportunities, which will result in better savings to your health plan. Now, the way that you get the app is you can go to the Android marketplace or to the Apple the Apple Store and download it. Now, the thing is, as there are a lot of apps and there's a lot of websites out there. And so when you go to the App Store, we want you to make sure that you search for Coral Healthcare to find the app. If you just search for Coral, I cannot vouch for what you might find. It's not the Coral app that we're speaking of. Let's just put it that way. So be sure and search for Coral Healthcare.
Very good.
Do you have anything left after that?
No. Matter of fact, you can tell how passionate Jay is about this. And we're all very passionate and excited about this. But Jay has been very involved in working with Coral, and we've had many iterations of this app before it's now released.
We really have, and then getting all the providers up to speed with Coral as well.
Exactly.
It's been a challenge.
Exactly.
But we didn't mention this. Once you download the app, and it is available today, as Troy said, this is really how you sign up. You're going to create an account, which requires the last 4 digits of your social security number or your member ID that's on the back of your hospital or on the front of your hospital ID card, last name and date of birth. And that will create your personal account on your personal iPhone for your access to the Coral application or the KPP free app, as we call it.
Yeah, I think just one more slide, and this is the easy one. We are very interested in your feedback, and it's very valuable to us. So as we roll out the new pod structure and we roll out some of these new applications and new technologies for you, we'd love to get your feedback ongoing over the next few days, next few months, years, because we really, truly want to take your feedback and we want to further enhance these tools that we're trying to provide you. And so one of the things that we will be rolling out in the future as well, some of our new technology is ability for even the members or for your employees or you, when you do have a ticket, for them to within the next 24 hours receive a survey so that they can tell us how we did. But we definitely value your feedback, value you as a customer, and we want to continue to provide enhanced service to you, enhanced technologies to better serve you. So we're here.
And I want to echo that a little bit. I think it was probably evident from the comments that were made earlier in the conversation about the resident Texans across the table. if it wasn't, I want to sort of let you all in behind the curtain a little bit and just say that I think as our commitment to you, we want you to know, Troy and I relocated to Oklahoma from Texas. In fact, I just became official this week and got my Oklahoma driver's license. So I share that with you so that you all know that we are passionate about this. I mean, this is your success and our success is important enough that we relocated our families to Oklahoma to participate in this change initiative to serve you in a better way. So, we had a lot of conversations internally about this discussion and whether we would announce it or how we would talk about it or what that would look like. And ultimately, we decided that accountability was more important to us than any level of lip service that we could provide. And so really announcing this to you holds us accountable to the level of service that you're expecting and the level of service that we've just communicated to you that you're going to get from us. And so, when we say that your feedback is valuable, we mean that. And we want you to know that the success of this structure and the service that we intend to provide to you and hopefully have been providing to you is paramount. So that's important. We thank you. This time of year, time is valuable, for everybody. It's a limited resource, and but we do appreciate the time that you committed to sitting through the webinar and kind of hearing us out and hearing what our intentions were here. So thank you, and we probably can check, Jay, if there's any questions. We happily take questions and parts if you're if you're able to send us some parts as well.
Let's see if I can get this open here. This looks like old questions.
Yes.
You might have seen me on my phone earlier. I've been getting a little bit of feedback from some of the account managers who are simultaneously interacting with and communicating with some of the folks, both on their pod as well as some of you all. And so sounds like from those communications that your feedback, this has been well received. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay, looks like we've got one question. A couple of questions came in, a couple of statements, positive statements, and then one question. How soon will the KPP mobile app be ready to use? It's actually ready now. We haven't put together all of the instructional materials that we are going to, but the app is ready. So you can certainly feel free, if you are an early adopter type person and that likes to just play with them and figure it out on your own, you most certainly can do that. But as far as the official splash that's going to go out to all the participants and the materials that you can share with your employees to kind of educate them on how to use it, those are going to be coming soon. I don't know what soon means, Melissa.
Soon means soon.
Okay, soon means soon. All right. I don't think we really have, I don't see any other questions as long as I'm doing this right. I'm looking in the correct places. So I'm going to infer that we were very thorough and answered questions, or everybody had a big lunch and is snoozed out. So anyway, I think we're kind of at the end. So thank you all very much. We do, as Melissa and Troy both said, we value our relationship very highly with everybody. And just thank you and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.